What's up, y'all? It's your girl CJ. Welcome back to another Storytime Sunday. I know it's not Sunday. I'm sorry. It's Tuesday, possibly Wednesday by the time this gets done. I'm just sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm human. I'm human. I was busy. Okay, let's just get right into it.
This is a human rights issue. It's at that intersection where racism, sexism, classism meet.
Breaking news now, Amara Banks, who goes by Jerica, and her daughters Zanaya Ivory and Kamaria Banks were last seen last Saturday.
We don't have all the details. We don't know exactly what took place.
It's not like her just to take off and not let us know where she's going.
There was immediate concern for this young mother and her missing children.
I was in there smelling the burnt flesh, one of the most horrible sights I've ever seen.
Everything that she does routinely was not done. So it tells you that something's not right, that something's wrong. And then everything just started spiraling out of control.
Some people describe Milwaukee as a tale of two cities. It's a city that's experiencing what some have described as a renaissance downtown, growth of business and entertainment opportunities. It hosts one of the largest music festivals in the nation in Summerfest, but at the same time, it's also considered by many to be the most racially segregated city in America. It's a city that has severe challenges with poverty and also a rising crime rate.
It's the worst place for black people to live. Statistically, the north side of Milwaukee is riddled with a lot of poverty, a lot of poor leadership. My white friends love this place, and my black friends want to leave this place.
Amara Jerica Banks is a young mom with two little girls, ages 4 and 5, living in a north side neighborhood here in Milwaukee.
This is a picture of Jerica with her dad when he retired from the library. And this is one of her graduation pictures of her playing the violin. Jerica was our adopted daughter. She moved into our house when she was 5 years old. Jerica was a daddy's girl. She was very quiet, but she was a very good person. She'd do anything for you if she could. She loved her children, and she was a very good mother. And then this is my grandson. This is Arzel Jr., picture of him. This is Zanaya. And then this is a picture of Jerica and Zanaya and Kamaria.
Arzel Ivory was Jerica Banks' ex-boyfriend and the father of 2 of her 3 children.
Working at Summerfest, and I think that's where she met him. You know, and I think the relationship was going pretty good. I think he thought that they would end up getting married. I do remember one time he just said that she didn't love him. So I think maybe she knew that they weren't going to be together that long, but they had 2 children together. Kamaria was my girl. Kamaria and I were very close. She would always want to sit in my lap, but I would always rock her and just, you know, we'd have fun together. But she was one little girl that always had smart things to say. Zanaya was very spoiled, but she was a very talented little girl too. And she and my husband just clicked. They were always buddy-buddy. They were smart and they were talented. They were Jerica's heart, you know. And when baby Zell was born, they just loved that baby brother. Oh, they loved him. They would just pick him up and carry him around, even though they weren't any bigger than he was. Jerica loved her children. She loved her children. Her children were her heart. You know, she would do for them before she'd do for herself. The baby was in the hospital because the baby was born with a lot of respiratory problems. My husband and I got in the car and we drove, and she called us and she said, "Mom, I think he's dead," you know, and I went, "What do you mean he's dead?" I said, "You just said that he was in the emergency room." And so we went there and the doctor met us and she said that they did all that they could, but the baby was already gone. She just fell in my arms and she was just crying and she was just really upset. And I asked her where the girls were and the girls were there. They really didn't know what was going on. She was devastated. And when she got past being devastated, then she was angry. So the day of the funeral, his family was there. We were there, her family. Lots of our friends, because we know a lot of people, they were there. And I was supposed to get up and read and say some words. But then he got up and she was angry that he got up and she says, "Why is he up there? Why is he saying it?" She was just really, really, really angry with him. I don't think I've ever seen her that angry because she felt that he let the baby die. They told him to take the baby to the hospital and he didn't. He could have called us and he didn't. He could have called her and he didn't. It was a rough day for her, and we went to the cemetery and they released balloons at the cemetery and we all went out to eat. But that day was the last day that we saw her.
Banks, who goes by Jerica, and her two daughters, 5-year-old Zanaya Ivory and 4-year-old Kamaria Banks, were last seen by Jerica's sisters about 2:30 a.m. Saturday morning. They'd spent Friday consoling Jerica, who buried her baby son that day. He died from health complications. And they all had plans to get brunch Saturday afternoon.
She's like, "Mika, don't forget to not come get me in the morning." I said, "No, I'm gonna come get you. I'm gonna come get you."
No one has seen or heard from her since.
Jerica's family contacted the Milwaukee police early after learning of her disappearance.
I've talked to her sisters and we all say the same thing. It's not like her just to take off and not let us know where she's going. I thought maybe she wanted to get away from him because she was so angry with him. And maybe she had gone somewhere and taken the kids, and it was just like a waiting game. Just waiting to see what happened, waiting to see what happened. Jerica was a creature of habit. If you didn't hear from her one day, you would hear from her the next day. And I kept calling her phone and getting anything. And the days just kind of roll into one for me.
When a woman goes missing, it usually does not bode well for her safety or well-being. So I was concerned, worried about the family. I'm worried about this community. This is a human rights issue. It's at that intersection where racism, sexism, classism meet.
Thursday, February 13th, Banks's brother sent 12 News an email asking for help finding his sister and her two daughters.
She ain't been active on Facebook or anything. I've been calling her phone since the day she came up missing the last time I seen her. I've been blowing her phone up every single day. All of a sudden today, the phone is off.
We reached out to police that same morning. They told us this was not a critical missing case.
I believe whites feel safe with police because a large part of the police force is white and they can empathize with whites. But when whites come into the black community, sometimes they may not understand the culture. Sometimes they may have implicit bias, and that factors into the service.
The first response from the Milwaukee Police Department came after reports from witnesses who said they heard and saw a woman yelling for help, arguing with a man outside of an apartment building on the north side early in the morning on Saturday. They called police to report it. Police arrived at the scene but said they could not locate the 911 caller or any disturbance.
That big picture window, that would be my living room. That would be her living room. I hear like loud thumping and I hear a lady screaming, "Help, help, help." I hear a man yelling, and then I hear her saying, but I didn't even do anything. I called 911 when I heard her screaming, help, help. I come back, look out the window. He's pulling her from that door right there. He's pulling her to the wall. The last thing I heard her say was, please don't kill me. And then it just got silent.
I felt that where could she have got the help? And she could have got the help when the neighbor called the police.
Police have issued an Amber Alert for missing Milwaukee mother and her 2 children. Amara Banks, who goes by Jerica, and her daughters Zanaya Ivory and Kamaria Banks were last seen last Saturday.
From the time that Milwaukee police first received a call about an argument in that parking lot until the time that an Amber Alert was issued was a full week. An entire week passed before an Amber Alert was issued in this case. Arzel Ivory fled the state. He went to Memphis, where his father was living, immediately after the initial call came in about the missing family.
And he told his father what he had done. And his father turned him in because his father did not want them to kill him because he did have a gun. I think that if his father hadn't done that, we probably never would have known what happened.
On Saturday morning, February 15th at approximately 2:30 a.m., the Milwaukee Police Department was notified by the Memphis Police Department that they had contact with Arzel Ivory, a 25-year-old resident of the city of Milwaukee and current boyfriend of Amara. Milwaukee police detectives were sent down to Memphis. With great sadness, I'm here to tell you we discovered the bodies of Amara Banks and her 2 daughters, Kamaria and Zanaya.
What the fuck? Even just taking, oh my god, okay, domestic shit aside, okay? Why the fuck did he kill the kids? What the fuck did the kids have to do with anything?
The police came in and detectives came to the house to tell me that they found them and that they were dead. I had to tell my husband. He just, I don't know if he went into shock or what. He just didn't really say anything. He just was really quiet.
Oh my god, God bless this woman. She lost her whole family. She lost her youngest grandson in the hospital. Then not even that long after, she loses her daughter and her grandkids, the rest of them. That's sad.
And my son was just devastated because he said, I should have done more to protect her. I was her big brother. I should have done more. You know, it was just really hard on all of us.
The bodies of Jerica and her 2 little girls were discovered burned in an abandoned garage on the north side of Milwaukee 1 day after the Amber Alert was issued. That location was on the same block where Arzel Ivory had lived.
The investigation is ongoing, and we'll be able to provide you with additional information tomorrow morning.
This is where the situation took place, and once again, send up prayers for this family. Make sure that we understand as a community it's time for us to take some of these matters in our own hands. We have to regroup, rethink, reshape how we deal with the distress caused in our neighborhoods.
It was one of the most horrible sights I've ever seen. I was in there smelling the burnt flesh. It was just tough. It was tough. It was one of those things where, what can I do more to help?
Ivory remains jailed in Memphis right now, awaiting extradition to Wisconsin to face 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide.
After 2 weeks of questions and agony, a Milwaukee family is remembering Amara Jerica Banks and her daughters, 5-year-old Zanaya Ivory and 4-year-old Kamaria Banks, all killed, police say, in an act of domestic violence.
I wish I had seen the signs, but I didn't see the signs, and I wish that I had, you know, because maybe something different could have changed if I had seen the signs.
It's hard. It's hard on the outside looking in to be able to see the signs, especially somebody who comes from abuse. We typically know how to hide it very well. We're accustomed to walking on eggshells already with our partner who is the abuser and the perpetrator of the situation. So hers is like regret and denial because she unfortunately ended up losing her daughter to domestic violence and her grandbabies. The signs are always hindsight. Like, you don't pick up red flags until after everything's already been said and done. Like, it's hard to differentiate a red flag versus what's normalized in a certain like group setting, a family setting, you know. It's hard. It's really hard. I know she still blames herself to this day, but she shouldn't. She didn't know. We tend to not know. We tend to overlook all sorts of signs, even if it's mental health related, like depression, and then, oh, I wish I would have known that so-and-so felt like this before they committed suicide. But people that are in these situations, we know how to hide them very well, very well. Most of the time, we dealt with it our whole entire lives, whether that is violence in any degree, mental, physical abuse, or depression, or whatever the case is, you know. It's just, it's hard being in it, and it's hard being the person being on the outside looking in, if that makes sense.
We didn't.
Our faith tells us that there is joy to come, and today is the celebration of life. They have a chance to relive and remember the blessing that they've been in their lives, and so that has been the focus of their time.
Prosecutors charged Arzell Ivory with 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. He faces life in prison if convicted.
I had the police report. I gave it to my son. I gave it to my best girlfriend. And my sister, who was a former cop, she said, "Oh my God." She said, "I was so angry." She said, "Don't read it." So I've never read it. I have it still sitting on my computer, but I've never read it.
It's detailed. It's very detailed, very graphic. So I'm sure she's doing the right thing by sparing her feelings on reading that. Ignorance really is bliss.
Initially, when he was taken into custody, he was facing charges of aggravated battery. Those charges became first-degree homicide after the bodies were discovered. Initially, there was a not guilty plea by reason of mental defect. At some point, his attorney says he decided to change his plea to guilty to avoid a trial. It was a very emotional day. It was a very difficult day for Jerica's family.
Yeah, because if that shit went to trial, those juries would have fucking slung him, bro. They would have dragged him. It was a smart decision on his attorney's part. That's all I'm gonna say.
They faced their daughter and granddaughter's killer in the courtroom for the very first time. They used the opportunity to tell him to his face how much he had hurt them, how evil they believed that he and his actions were.
You gotta think about it. That's so fucking evil, just to even be able to kill your partner, somebody you claim to love. Okay, like that's one fucking disaster just right off the bat. But then you kill your partner's kids. They're not even yours. They're not even yours. And that is so evil. That is evil, evil, evil. There is no good in your fucking body to be able to maliciously do that.
I think the entire community felt the distress, the anger, the anguish in the voices of Jerica's family as they confronted their daughter and granddaughter's killer in court.
You and you alone made the decision to end the lives of Baby Z, Kamaria, Zanaya, and Jerica. I said Baby Z because even my sister knew you had negligence in his death, and she was not going to ever forgive you for this. Is this why you said you brought them into this world and you take them out? How dare you be a callous, cold, and evil person to do this?
And then I spoke, and I read a letter. Sorry. From one of Zanaya's teachers. And she said in the letter, "The last conversation I remember having with you was when you ran up to me in the middle of the math class to tell me your baby brother was an angel. You were so excited, seeing the good in every situation. My last memory I have of you is eating lunch in the classroom with you. I didn't know that this was going to be our last time together. And if I would have savored every moment. I love you, sweet girl. Rest in paradise. Miss Balmer." I read that in the...
I told you. When it comes to kids, like, yo, I can't, like, why people hurt kids. Oh my God, I swear I cry in every video of these fucking hometown tragedy videos.
I wanted him to know that there were other people that loved her and that thought so much of her. And, you know, it just... I was glad that there was like a barrier between us and all of the sheriffs were there, because I would have loved to have gotten my hands on him, you know, but God knows what he's doing.
I know what I did has affected the world. I know I can't change anything by what I say, but I am truly sorry, and I regret everything I did.
The judge listened to his statement and then was skeptical of the authenticity of his remorse.
I was gonna say, did you see how he's like, I regret my decision? Like, he was just so dry, like just apathy, like no emotions, no nothing. That's evil. That is so evil.
The situation with Jerica and her children had a huge effect on the neighborhoods, because that could have been a lot of people that live in the city of Milwaukee. I think that it gave us the realization of how bad it is for women and children.
And Kent, we understand the family is taking some steps to try to bring that closure and possibly help others.
Yeah, that's right. They're working with the Sojourner Family Peace Center here in Milwaukee, which helps victims of domestic violence, hoping to make a difference for others. They've also commissioned a stained glass window of Jerica and her two little girls that will be placed there at Sojourner Family Peace Center.
As a victim myself in my first marriage of domestic violence, I wanted to do that, to have that stained glass window to hang. And Carmen said she had a place that she wants to hang it. And a lot of the money that was given, we had them to give it to sojourners to help with domestic violence.
I think when you go through tragedy and these hard things in life, to have somebody just there to hold space for you is a pretty phenomenal thing, you know? So that's really what we tried to do with any family experiencing this, to make it about Val and Eklund and what her family needs to heal.
I miss them. I miss them. And I think the thing that gets me, I will never see them grow up to see all the things that they could be. And I was looking forward to that. I was hoping to be around until they were 14 to give Jerica a hard time, either by going to high school or dating or whatever. I wanted to see that, but it didn't happen. That just got taken away from us so early. In the space of that little bit of time, I lost 3 grandchildren and a daughter. And this is the second daughter I buried. And I asked God, why am I still here? it's not my time. I stood in that cemetery and I heard it being said, it's not your time. It's not your time. And we buried Jerica and we buried the girls and they're all together. I don't think she could have asked for anything more for all of them to be together.
I think from what I've witnessed from families who've walked through grief, finding meaning and how to carry it, I think, is a long journey. You still live with the loss, you still have the same ache, the same missing pieces of your life, but I think it's important to reorient on who they were, who she was, who the babies were, and all the potential we lost as a community. We don't often tell that part of the story.
Detective called me from Florida and he said, Miss Banks, now you have closure. And I said, no, I have justice. I'll never have closure.
Well, guys, that was it. Another emotional hometown tragedy story. I don't have much to say at the end of this one. I feel like a lot of the times I watch these videos and it does have to do with domestic violence with a lot of these situations. So it just is like, get support, get help, and if you know something, if you see something, say something. Always, I'm big on that. Anyways, this is really sad, but thank y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for everything, guys. Be blessed. Have a good day. Don't forget to fucking drink water and eat your fruit. Okay, bye. Love you.